Green or brown? Brown or green? Phillip Clayton set the unwrapped crayon upright on the diner's formica tabletop so it stood like a mocking sentinel. He could stare at it until the war was won or lost, and his 50% chance of guessing its color wouldn't change. He flicked the offensive object onto the pile of wrappings he'd torn from each crayon in the box. The bell over the diner's door jingled. Phillip raised his eyes without lifting his head to assess the newcomer, a suit-wearing middle-aged man with a misshapen fedora. The furtive maneuver more from habit than a professional interest in who entered the door at the far end of the long diner. The renovated aluminum travel trailer sported booths beneath a row of windows that were separated from the stool-lined counter by a narrow aisle. Located on an out-of-the-way side street, the greasy spoon mostly attracted working stiffs like Phillip, who were stuck on the home front, while their buddies fought overseas to avenge the dead and wounded of Pearl Harbor. Phillip's gut clenched as he plucked a different crayon from the pile that resembled a stack of jumbled pickup sticks. The pristine white one. That color he knew. He couldn't explain what prompted him to stop in the Five and Dime to buy the box or why he'd come in here, dumped the crayons on the table, and removed the wrappings. Maybe he expected the childish impulse to somehow offset the burn of the letter stuffed in the inner pocket of his suit jacket. If so, he'd sadly miscalculated. His thumbnail dug into the crayon's waxy surface. Then, with little effort, he snapped it in two with one hand. The bell over the door rang again, and Phillip inwardly groaned. His uncle, impeccably dressed as usual in a three-piece gray suit complemented with a slender gray tie, appeared as cool as an icebox cucumber, despite the sweltering July heat. Richard Whitmer acknowledged Phillip with the dip of his chin, then maneuvered his way along the aisle. Phillip quickly shoved the crayons back into the box and swept the torn wrappings toward the napkin dispenser situated beneath the window. Richard settled in the opposite bench and steepled his fingers.
"Should I have brought coloring books? How did you know I was here?"
Annoyed at the petulant tone in his voice, Phillip deliberately lightened it.
"Or is this just a coincidence?" "I've taught you better."
Phillip let a wry smile stretch his lips.
"A coincidence is never a coincidence." "Exactly. Though perhaps this instance is an exception to the rule. I was on my way to headquarters when, lo and behold, who should I see out the window but my own dear nephew trudging down this street. I suppose that could have been mere chance."
"Trudging?" Phillip didn't trudge. He strode, sprinted, raced. Richard tapped the crayon box.
"Is this an indication of bad news?"
The waitress, wearing a pale pink uniform and a frilly cap, appeared at the booth carrying a carafe. "Coffee?"
"Thank you, Irene."
Richard directed a smile her way.
"Have you heard from Michael recently?"
"I received a letter last week." She set a cup onto a saucer, then filled it with the strong brew. "I have no idea where he is, but he says he's fine, and he got the package I sent him. That's a blessing."
"Especially if your special oatmeal raisin cookies were inside,"
Richard said.
"I don't suppose you have one or two of those hidden away behind the counter?"
Irene flushed at the compliment. "If I'd known you were dropping by, I'd have baked you a dozen."
"Maybe next time, then."
"How about you, hon?" Irene gestured toward Phillip's untouched cup. "Would you like me to freshen that up for you?"
"I'm fine."
Phillip forced a smile. As much as he wanted to lash out at the world, he couldn't blame Irene because her son passed his physical with flying colors. Or that Michael's youthful heroism led him to sign up with the army in the days following the Japanese attack. The kid should have graduated from high school a few weeks ago. Instead, he was only God knew where doing his patriotic duty. Phillip had never met the boy, but Irene had been a fixture at the diner for years. As regulars, Phillip and his uncle had heard numerous stories about her only child.